thought the Commanders' offseason was over. 3 game-changing bombshells coming your way. First, a strategic error that let go of a key veteran receiver, now in divisional rivals' hands. Want to see how this move will burn us come playoffs? Second, our fallen hero, the quarterback who revived our hope with impossible passes, is free. And while our backup QB has a losing record, Peters hesitates. Will we let the only option that dominates the system and has proven chemistry with, bar one slip away? Wait for the big one. The elite WR1 confessed he was inches away from leaving. How did we keep him with $44 million guaranteed, and what secrets did he negotiate? This isn't theory. It's a raw analysis of decisions that will define if we're contenders or a historic failure. Subscribe now before they censor the details, like to demand a return of 4, and stay until the end. What's coming might divide the fan base forever. Let's start with something that's really confusing and makes me angry. And that's the decision to cut KJ Osborne from the 53-player roster. I'm telling you straight up, this could be one of those decisions Adam Peters will deeply regret later in the season when we're desperate for depth at the position. Remember when we brought Osborne in from New England after the Patriots cut him mid-season last year? He was that veteran piece we desperately needed to give depth and experience to our receiver group. The guy had 4 consistently solid years with Minnesota from 2020 to 2023. He knew exactly what it meant to play in the NFC North, which is a brutal division, and repeatedly showed he could be productive when given the chance and targets needed. But here's what really bothers me and has me questioning Peters' strategy. Osborne never had a single official reception with us all last season. And you know why? Because he was never given a real, consistent opportunity to show what he could do in our offensive system. He was basically a luxury spectator who knew the schemes but never got to execute them in real game situations. And now that he finally had a full offseason to perfectly understand all of Cliff Kingsbury's concepts and routes, we decide to cut him just when he could provide the most value. I find it completely counterproductive. Let me explain why this frustrates me so much. During his 4 seasons with Minnesota, Osborne averaged 50 receptions and 650 yards per season. Not all pro numbers, but exactly what you need from your WR3 or WR4. He was a reliable receiver on third downs, someone who knew how to find the soft spots in zone defenses and had that veteran experience that's invaluable during pressure. Moments! You must be crazy if you think this was the right decision. CBS Sports named this cut as one of the biggest surprises across the league, and after analyzing the stats and context, I totally agree with that assessment. While other teams across the league are desperate to find reliable depth at the receiver position, we're sending experienced veteran talent straight into the arms of the competition. And you know what's the most frustrating and potentially dangerous part of this whole situation? Minnesota, who knows Osborne's skills perfectly because they developed him over 4 seasons, just brought back Adam Thielen from Carolina, and there are increasingly strong rumors they might seriously be interested in reuniting with Osborne. Imagine the nightmare scenario where he ends up helping the Vikings beat us twice per season because he knows our tendencies and weaknesses. But there's more. The Patriots, who obviously know his capabilities because they had him on their roster, might also consider bringing him back, especially after cutting Kendrick Bourne. Do you realize what this means? We're potentially strengthening teams that could face us in the playoffs. I sincerely believe this decision shows that Peters is still learning some crucial lessons about smart roster management and long-term planning. Yes, we have Terry McLaurin, who is an elite WR1. Yes, we have Jahan Dotson showing potential. But what exactly happens if one of them gets injured in the early weeks of the season? Do we really believe our young, inexperienced receivers are fully ready to handle the full load of a playoff attack? The reality is that in modern NFL, you need at least 5 to 6 reliable receivers to navigate a whole 17-game season. Now, plus playoffs, injuries are inevitable, suspensions can happen, and depth becomes the difference between a successful season and a frustrating collapse. If that surprises you and has you worried, wait to hear this that's going to excite you. Now we're talking about something that really has me excited and full of hope. Taylor Heinicke has just been cut by the Los Angeles Chargers after a disappointing preseason. And I categorically tell you it cannot be a simple coincidence that this happens just when we have serious doubts and legitimate concerns about our backup quarterback position. Do you vividly remember all the pure magic this incredible man brought to Washington during those magical years? The legendary Hail Mary against Chicago that left us breathless. The impossible pass with his eyes completely closed to Terry McLaurin that defied all logic. The epic head-to-head against Tom Brady in the playoffs where he proved he wasn't afraid of anyone. Heinicke not only gave us crucial victories when we needed them the most, he gave us something we had lost for years. That unbreakable attitude of never giving up that defines exactly what it means to be a true Washington Commander. And here comes the undeniable, raw reality Adam Peters needs to face immediately. Josh Johnson is 38 years old, and his record as a starter in his long career is just 1-8. 1-8! Those are absolutely terrible numbers that should worry any fan. Compare that directly to Heinicke, who has a much more respectable record of 13-15-1 as a starter. A significantly better passer rating, 84.1 against 70.7. A much more favorable touchdown to interception ratio, 1.39-1 against 0.81-1, and considerably more versatility in threat running the ball with 5.3 yards per attempt. But do you know what stat really impresses me and should convince any skeptic? Terry McLaurin, who unfortunately had to play and adapt to 13 different starting quarterbacks during his entire professional career, consistently had better statistical numbers per game with Heinicke commanding the offense than with any other quarterback in his history. More average receptions per game, 5.0 against 4.8. More average yards per game, 69.1 against 64.5. And that includes Jaden Daniels statistically, although we recognize the sample size is limited. Now, we can always manipulate statistics to support any argument we want to make. But there's something statistics can't lie about. The respect and admiration players had for Heinicke when he was in DC. Former running back J.D. McKissick fondly referred to him as Baby Russell Wilson, recognizing that special ability to create plays out of nothing and keep plays alive when everything seemed lost. Let me take you back to that emotional moment after the wildcard game against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. McLaurin, with all the passion in the world, publicly declared, "I choose number 4 of my team any day of the week, twice on Sundays," and specifically added that Heinicke plays completely fearless and always gives his offensive weapons the chance to make spectacular plays. Those aren't empty PR words. That's genuine player-to-player respect. I firmly believe bringing back Heinicke would not only be smart from every possible football perspective, but it would be a move that would explode with genuine excitement. Our entire fan base that still remembers those magical moments. Veteran players fully respected him, rookies learned from his work ethic, and coaches trusted his ability to make smart decisions under extreme pressure. And do you know exactly why? This makes so much strategic sense right now. Because Marcus Mariota clearly isn't at 100% of his physical capabilities after his worrying and inconsistent performances throughout the preseason. And if Jaden Daniels unfortunately gets injured during the regular season, do we really want to bet our season's future and depend entirely on 38-year-old Josh Johnson to save us and lead us to playoffs? Think about it from this perspective. Heinicke already knows our system perfectly, already has proven chemistry with McLaurin, already understands the locker room culture, and already demonstrated he can win important games when the pressure is at its highest. Why not take advantage of that experience and knowledge when it's available as a free agent at no trade cost? Plus, consider the emotional and intangible factor Heinicke would bring back to the team. During every winning campaign, 5 in total during his time in DC, every miraculous 4th down escapade, and every improbable pass that defied expectations, Heinicke returned to Washington. That confidence and swagger we had lost and desperately needed in moments when fans have very little else to celebrate and get excited about. Now, after a historic season where the team came within 1 win of the Super Bowl, there's no better time for an emotional and strategic reunion between Heinicke and the Commanders. The timing is perfect, the need is obvious, and the opportunity is there waiting. There's just one problem. As the original report says, just don't bet money on it happening. but I believe we should pressure as a fan base for this reunion to materialize. But that's absolutely nothing compared to the nuclear bomb coming up next. And here comes the biggest, most explosive and revealing bomb of all. Terry McLaurin has just publicly confessed without filters and with total honesty that when he officially requested his trade on July 31st, he wasn't playing any mind games. He was completely serious, totally intentional, and if Adam Peters hadn't acted with lightning speed and genius intelligence, we could have irreversibly lost our elite WR1 right before the most important and crucial season in Jaden Daniels' career. Total transparency, McLaurin declared this week in a press conference that should be studied in sports management courses. I also told this directly to management. Requesting a trade wasn't something I was doing just to gain leverage in negotiations, or just to make noise, or to cause unnecessary media uproar. I try to be as intentional and authentic as possible in all my decisions. This has me completely crazy and admired at the same time. Do you perfectly realize how incredibly close we were to losing the best, most consistent, or most professional receiver we've had in this franchise in decades? But here's what really impresses me and shows the kind of leader we have in McLaurin. He admitted he's not perfect. There are things he could have handled differently, but the most important thing in the whole situation was keeping communication channels open and honest. The way it ended was much better than how it started. He recognized with a maturity not all elite players possess. Now let me tell you exactly what was at stake and why McLaurin had legitimate reasons to consider a trade. This man finished the 2024 season with absolutely spectacular numbers. 117 receptions that set a team historical record, second place in the entire league with 13 receiving touchdowns, tied 19 overall with 82 total receptions, and an impressive total of 1,096 receiving yards that placed him 15th in the entire NFL. And he did all this with a rotating group of quarterbacks that included Sam Howell, Jacoby Brissett, Jeff Driscoll, and others. Imagine those numbers with consistency at the quarterback position. But here's what really impresses me about how Peters handled this delicate situation. Instead of getting defensive, proud, or trying to trade him out of spite as other general managers have done in similar situations, Peters immediately understood and recognized the need to secure McLaurin for the immediate and long-term future of this franchise. It was a decision he couldn't afford to delay or handle poorly. Peters himself explained his philosophy and urgency. Deadlines and timelines often force us to act decisively. One important thing to know and understand is that we wanted to do this. We wanted to extend Terry. We didn't technically need to do it. He's in the last year of his current contract. He's nearly 30 years old. But we wanted to do it because we completely believe in him and we believe he can play effectively well into his 30s based on what he has consistently shown us, his incredible physical resilience, his unmatched work ethic, and how extraordinarily well he takes care of his body and preparation. And now we get to the figures that really matter and show the serious commitment from the organization. McLaurin's extension includes a whopping $44.65 million fully guaranteed and an immediate signing bonus of $30 million. $30 million as a signing bonus. That's not we value you money. That's your absolutely fundamental to our plans money. But wait. Because there are more financial details showing the smartness of this contract structure, the Commanders could technically save $16 million if they decided to cut McLaurin after the 2026 season. But Peters is already completely dismissing those long-term conversations. It's a 3-year extension, Peters explained with full confidence. So he's effectively under contract for 4 years, and I think nobody in the office or that locker room would be surprised if he played the full 4 years. Now imagine for a second what this means for Jaden Daniels' development. Instead of worrying about building chemistry with new or inexperienced receivers, he'll have the security and confidence of knowing his number one weapon will be there for the next 4 years of his development as a franchise quarterback. That stability and continuity is invaluable for a young quarterback. Let me put it in perspective with some historical numbers that will blow your mind. During McLaurin's entire career so far, he had to adapt and create chemistry with 13 different starting quarterbacks. 13! Can you imagine how frustrating it must be for an elite receiver to constantly relearn systems, signals, timing, and preferences? And even with all that inconsistency and instability, he has managed to produce elite numbers year after year. But do you know what I like and respect most about this entire situation and how it was handled? McLaurin's brutal and refreshing honesty. He publicly admitted he was genuinely willing to leave Washington if he wasn't valued properly financially. But he also professionally recognized that open communication ultimately worked perfectly. That's veteran leadership of the kind that builds winning cultures and that other young players can admire and emulate. And here comes my final and most important point. This whole situation categorically demonstrates that Adam Peters is quickly learning and mastering what it means to be the general manager of the Washington Commanders in the modern era. You can't afford to lose genuinely elite talent, especially when you have a second-year quarterback who absolutely needs all possible offensive weapons to succeed and fully develop his potential. Peters' decision to act quickly, pay the necessary money, and secure McLaurin long-term sends a clear message not only to the league, but to all potential free agents. The Washington Commanders are ready to compete at the highest level right now, not in 2 or 3 years, but this season. Now, after deeply analyzing these 3 explosive news defining our offseason, I directly ask you, our incredible community of Commanders fans, do you honestly think Peter should swallow his pride and bring Heineke back as our emergency QB3? The stats don't lie. The chemistry with McLaurin is proven, and the experience in pressure situations is invaluable. Was it really a strategic mistake to cut KJ Osborne when we know statistically that injuries at the receiver position always happen during the regular season? Are we sending veteran talent directly to teams that could eliminate us in the playoffs? And what do you specifically think about Terry McLaurin's brutal and filterless honesty, admitting publicly that he really genuinely wanted to be traded, if he didn't receive the financial respect he deserved? Do you respect that honesty, or do you prefer players keep those negotiations completely private? Leave me all your detailed answers in the comments, because I want to know exactly word for word what our passionate Commanders community is thinking about these crucial topics. If you firmly believe Heineke should return to give real depth to our quarterback position, write "bring back Ford Taylor" in the comments. If you think cutting Osborne was definitely wrong and Peters made a mistake we could regret, write Peters. Osborne mistake. And if you're genuinely excited and satisfied with McLaurin's $1 million extension and believe he's worth every penny, write Scary Terry forever $44 million. This is our United Commanders family. Burgundy and Gold to the end. And absolutely every one of your comments, every unique perspective, every passionate opinion greatly helps me better understand what you want to see analyzed and covered in depth on this channel we've built together. Like immediately, if you enjoyed this detailed and uncensored analysis, share this video specifically with other devoted Burgundy and Gold fans who need to be informed about these crucial developments. And please subscribe and enable notifications, because tomorrow we'll have more explosive news, more deep analysis, and more exclusive content that you simply cannot miss if you want to stay updated with everything happening in our organization. The Washington Commanders are building something truly special and historic this 2025 season, with Jaden Daniels entering his second year, McLaurin secured for 4 more years, with a dramatically improved defense and with a completely transformed organizational culture. And we, as the most passionate fan community in the entire DMV, will be here meticulously covering every strategic move, every controversial decision, every potentially historic moment coming up in this season that could change everything. And always remember, no matter what happens, no matter the criticism, no matter the doubts, hail to the Commanders, hail to Burgundy and Gold, and hail to the best fan base in the NFL.